The core function of HiWayCAD.com is three-dimensional interaction. However, as a CAD program, it must eventually output two-dimensional construction drawings. According to the design plan, the 2D drawings are automatically generated from the 3D model. When this feature was first developed, HiWayCAD.com followed industry convention by downloading an open-source library from GitHub. It was the best third-party library available at the time.
AI is the terminator of third-party function libraries.
The problem with this library was that it wasn't a plug-and-play NuGet package, it was a development project. This meant that users had to select and copy the useful source code into their own programming projects, which increased programming complexity. The key issue was that it was only a half-finished product. It couldn't group drawings into blocks or be dragged and moved. When the HiWayCAD project entered its refinement phase, the team revisited this unfinished library. They found that the GitHub project had since solved these two problems. However, the new version structure and style had also completely changed. Using it would require deleting all the old code and reintroducing the new version. After careful consideration, and based on the principle of short-term pain is better than long-term pain and the advantages of AI in small, trivial code, the team decided to completely abandon all third-party libraries. Instead, they would use a custom code library created by AI. A custom function library in traditional programming is a static function in a separate subproject. The calling method is class name plus static function name. For individual, small-scale needs, it's not worth the effort of creating a separate library. HiWayCAD's approach is to not make a function library, but rather to create a customized component parent class. This changes it from external code to internal code. Not only is it easy to call, but it can also share other public code, such as mouse and keyboard event listeners and other member functions. AI terminated the third-party software function library. AI is most suitable for creating small, independent functions with a clear purpose because it's easy to write prompts. Once a function library is implemented with custom code, it becomes tailored to specific needs. The advantages of custom code are: all useful code is included. No unnecessary code is included. There are no version compatibility issues. The code can be revised at will. The code can be extended at will. For enterprise programming, reports are inevitable. This is now called business intelligence, such as the once popular Crystal reports and Microsoft reports. These are being replaced by custom reports. The typical approach for a custom report is: ask AI to create an HTML tag block and integrate it into a separate HTML file. If it is only for browsing, it can be displayed directly on the web page. To archive or print, it can be output as a PDF file. The PDF file format is the smallest for archival documents, making it the ultimate goal for reports. If a special file format is needed, the PDF can be converted. For HiWayCAD, replacing external code with AI was a meaningful and valuable major rework. In the foreseeable future, HiWayCAD will need another complete rework because the current version is still based on .NET 6.0. The existence of compatibility issues forces the project to be upgraded and kept current. Therefore, after .NET 10.0 becomes stable, the project won't be naturally upgraded. Instead, a new project will be created, and the useful code will be filtered and copied over.
Blazor, a rising star in single-page applications.
When developing a web application today, a single-page application is the definite first choice. A single-page application means the entire application has only one HTML file, index.html. The other parts are Razor files that act as components of this single HTML file. The most direct result of this design is that the code files are only downloaded once when the application starts, meaning the application only loads once. This is unlike older frameworks where every action required reloading from the server, and this new design can significantly improve the software's performance. Single-page applications usually refer to the three most popular JavaScript-based application frameworks: React, Vue, and Angular. In response, Microsoft released Blazor WebAssembly WASM and Blazor Server to C#-based single-page applications. Microsoft's two frameworks have a completely new design concept because they are no longer a client-server architecture. Blazor WebAssembly has no distinction between front-end and back-end. All coding runs on the client machine. Blazor Server is still a client-server mechanism, but the two ends rely on Signaler for a continuous hot connection. This eliminates the network server's queuing and authentication steps for each request's independent connection. React, Vue, and Angular are all purely client-side frameworks. The server side still requires traditional web services, such as Web APIs written in C#. This means many Blazor features cannot be implemented. Therefore, the JavaScript-based single-page application frameworks are not comparable to Blazor. Microsoft's technology has always been a late mover that surpasses its competitors. Microsoft achieved this with Blazor in the single-page application space. The same is likely true for AI/ML. Latecomers often develop with a clear target after summarizing the successes and failures of their predecessors, essentially standing on the shoulders of giants. HiWayCAD's AI/ML features will wait until Microsoft's AI/ML technology matures and completely surpasses Python. After all, this is an advanced feature and not an immediate priority. Currently, Microsoft's AI/ML technology is not inferior to Python and may even be far superior. Microsoft's weakness is its late start. Python has a head start, possessing a large community of early adopters, which is professionally referred to as ecosystem. The three JavaScript single-page frameworks are all front-end software. Their backend, or server, still needs a precompiled language like C#. Their front and back ends are completely disjointed. As a result, they must rely on network services for connection, and the data structures have to be built twice. Backend, a C# data model is built. Frontend, a JavaScript data model is built. Because JavaScript is not object-oriented, it is difficult to match the backend data model. Therefore, to align with the backend data model, the front end often has to use TypeScript. TypeScript is a Microsoft-developed upgrade to JavaScript that implements object-oriented features, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Generally, TypeScript generates a compressed version of JavaScript after compilation. In the age of AI, these front-end technologies are not worth a programmer's meticulous attention. They can be easily written into prompts for AI to handle. As a result, their role has been basically replaced by AI. There are many online reports about companies completely laying off their front-end programmers.
Front-end and back-end in web software.
Blazor is a full-stack framework. Full stack means it has no front-end and back-end distinction. If you were to create a new software application, a single-page application would be the first choice. The choice of which single-page application framework is a matter of personal opinion, and the basic principle is based on the programmer's personal experience. Those strong in JavaScript will choose React, with Vue and Angular as alternatives. The industry previously favored Angular, but now React is the first choice. Those strong in C# will undoubtedly choose Blazor. HiWayCAD is a fan of Microsoft, so it has faithfully chosen Blazor because Blazor is full stack, with no distinction between front-end and back-end. It is a milestone because it merges JavaScript and C# into the same language environment. C# is a powerful precompiled language, with an extremely broad and solid ecosystem. JavaScript is the scripting language of web programming and the most common low-level language. Academically, it is still a high-level language, but its capabilities and compiler support are unimpressive. Most importantly, JavaScript is an interpreted language, not a precompiled one. This means that before each use, it must be compiled into a binary file on the spot and then executed. This is not a big deal for a small application, but for a large project, it becomes extremely slow. Blazor's integration of JavaScript and C# into a single language can sometimes work wonders. For example, a Blazor application will never have network congestion. This is because all code runs only on the client machine, and there are no network requests. Since it doesn't get on the highway, it can stay out of highway traffic jams. Another example is monitoring keyboard and mouse events. Traditionally, this is handled by front-end JavaScript. Sometimes, this code can be very complex and large, which has significant side effects. The code may have logical errors that cannot be found during editing or may not throw errors during runtime. The code is transparent to the outside world, so there is no privacy. Even if the code is compressed, I can reverse engineer it to at least make it readable. If the amount of code is too large, operability can decrease significantly, even to an unbearable degree. Since Blazor has achieved a great language integration, the JavaScript code responsible for these event listeners can all be replaced with C#. This resolves the side effects mentioned above. In practice, HiWayCAD put the mouse event listeners on mouse down on mouse move, and on mouse up into the C# parent class. This provides a permanent solution. No matter how the graphics are added, removed, or modified, it will not affect the mouse event listeners. An added benefit is that the event listeners can share other C# functions, such as determining if a click coordinate is within a valid graphic, rather than outside of it or in a hole. Another example is getting the dimensions of an image. Although this is a small requirement, its implementation is tricky. If only C# is used, a huge NuGet package would have to be downloaded and installed. This would create a lot of useless code and version dependencies. If a third-party library is used, in addition to the above problems, commercial use would require paying fees to the library owner. HiWayCAD solution using custom code is brilliant. First, in C#, the full image address is passed into a JavaScript function call to get the image's width and height from the browser and return them to C# for storage. When C# calls for drawing, it passes the image coordinates, width, and height to determine its display position and size. When clicking and dragging, the image's width and height are used to verify whether the clicked point is on a valid image. If the above example were to be used on the other three JavaScript single-page frameworks, each service request would require waiting in a queue. If the network is congested, it could take a very long time. Identity verification. To prevent malicious attacks, all service requests must verify their identity, including the token, IP address, computer, and browser. These time costs are unreasonable for event response, completely impossible for obtaining image dimensions.
AI-generated function libraries.
The previous video about the custom code for the two-dimensional construction drawing plugin was based on pure hard-coded code. Activating hard-coded code is a significant amount of work. Therefore, in the practical application of the HiWayCAD project, the team had to start from scratch along an experienced path, which is why this new approach was taken. The specific reasons for the change include: hard-coded code must be converted to random code, including graphics grouping and infinite holes. The size of the canvas greater than tag must be set dynamically. The source code for grouping multiple graphics into blocks is still missing. The source code's unified drawing mechanism sets a unified initialization, and then the drawing is separated by graphic type. This makes the drawing code interdependent and leads to chaos. It must be changed to a specific method for a particular graphic. The original method of obtaining image dimensions relied on JavaScript code. This mechanism cannot be used for independent external function libraries. The core of this article is about using function libraries created by AI to replace third-party function libraries. In practice, this has significant academic value. As a developer, the key challenge is that with such complex requirements, AI will be unable to help if you demand a one-time solution. HiWayCAD's solution is to create it step-by-step, from simple to complex, within the same interactive session. The steps are as follows. 1. Ask Google Gemini to draw a draggable line on a canvas tag, then test the stroke color, line thickness, and color fill. 2. Expand the graphics to include circles, ellipses, rectangles including rounded rectangles, polygons, text, and images. 3. Create holes in closed graphics, including circles, ellipses, rectangles, and polygons. 4. Implement combining multiple graphics into a block to enable collective movement when dragged. 5. In the Visual Studio development environment, add a separate C# file. The goal is to create a parent class for inheritance that contains the graphic creation methods. Since it is an inherited class and part of the internal code, it does not need to be registered as a service in the program.cs file. 6. Add a JavaScript file to receive instructions and draw the graphics. The graphic drawing functions are all set as export type, so they are only loaded when needed. 7. Add a component file that inherits the parent class to be responsible for passing user instructions. Note that the class inheritance is declared in the presentation file, at inherits parent class. 8. When the component file starts, it must issue an import directive to load the specified JavaScript file, and then the JavaScript functions can be called by name. 9. Dragging is implemented by mouse events. The event listeners are conventionally a JavaScript behavior, but here, they can be transplanted into the C# parent class file for a permanent solution. This avoids unnecessary attention in the component and JavaScript files and allows for sharing resources with other C# functions. 10. This kind of function library is no longer a traditional function library but belongs to the program's source code. The benefit is that there is at least no version compatibility issue. In conclusion, replacing third-party software libraries is a major change in the IT world, and it has two major benefits. Customization. It includes all useful functions and no useless ones. It can also be modified and extended at will. Avoidance of issues from large libraries. It avoids a large amount of useless code, version limitations, functional limitations, and learning curves that come with third-party software. This is a milestone in the evolution of species in the IT world. It must be popularized to every programmer.